Hello, welcome to my virtual diary. I'm Laya, and today we're going to be discussing what it's like to lose a friend that you were super close with in the past. Losing a friend is genuinely one of the worst feelings ever, like ever. You could lose a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but it's not the same pain as losing a friend, not because I'm saying that for whatever reason, but because whenever you're with a partner, you kind of expect it, but with a friend, you don't expect them to really do anything bad, especially if they've been so loyal for so long, and you don't expect them to leave or for you to drift off because you're so close, and it eventually actually happens. I feel like a lot of people don't really talk about how effective it could really be to lose a friend, and I don't want to say that the internet downplays it, because there's definitely people who understand it and talk about it properly, or quote unquote properly, but I feel like a lot of people just don't understand that even friendship quote unquote breakups, or whatever you want to call them, can be very sad. They can be even depressing if you were really that close, and you can look back, you guys could even still be in contact and still be considered friends and still be, communicate every now and then, and it can still hurt as super bad, even though you guys have no bad blood. And in all honesty, I feel like it's worse when you guys have no bad blood, because you just remind yourself of all of the memories that you have, and the fact that there's still an opportunity that you can have it, even though that person does not want to commit to it, but you do, makes it more saddening. There's multiple ways a fallout can happen between two people, and that can be that your interests don't align anymore, you both like different things. Maybe you guys used to have classes with one another all of the time, but ever since you didn't have classes together, you stopped talking slowly. In the beginning it was all fine, you guys would visit each other, and then at the end of the year you guys are still talking, and then all of a sudden in the summer, by the end of the summer and on to the next school year, for some reason you guys are just basically acquaintances. This doesn't just happen in person either, it can happen online, and whether it's online or not, someone can just straight ghost you, which is another reason that you guys can fall off. Of course, there's many other toxic ways of falling out, like maybe you had a boyfriend and your friend proceeded to sleep with that boyfriend, maybe they kissed him, did something romantic with your boyfriend to ruin it, maybe they fought you, maybe you guys had lots of arguments, maybe you guys betrayed each other, or one of the other hurt the other really bad. Whatever your reasoning is, it still hurts regardless. So many people claim that they do not care what happens to their ex-friend, and they don't care about their whereabouts, such as, I don't care if she's doing bad in life, I don't care if she's doing good in life, I don't care if she gets into a car crash, I don't care if she has a lot of more friends now, or she's still friends with our mutual old friends, etc. But those same people do in fact care, because they're still thinking about that person and being like, I don't care, when they clearly do, because they're always on their mind. And it's okay to still care about an old friend. I will say that it's not the best to care about them in a malicious way, hoping really bad things on them. And if anything, whether you guys ended up in bad blood or not, you should not be wishing death, car crash, or anything ill upon them, their friends, their family, etc. It's perfectly It's perfectly fine to miss an old friend. I mentioned a friend in my last video named Kylo, and me and them were really close from 6th to 8th grade. However, when summer arrived in 2020, that's when we kind of started to fall off and played less Roblox together, stopped texting as much, etc. We got our own friend groups, separate friends, etc. And whenever I see them pop up onto my FYP, or I see them on any social media, I get really sad, because I remembered all the memories we had in middle school, and they were such a genuinely good friend. But never ever have I wished anything morally wrong, or just rude in general to happen to them. The only thing that I've wished for them is for them to have a good life, and also for us to maybe reconnect one day. I've tried it, but it seems like, she doesn't want to do it. And if your friend doesn't want to do it, or maybe ex-friend, whoever it is, if they don't want to do it, then don't do it. Because if you end up rekindling, it's just not, number one, it's not going to feel the same, and number two, if you know that they don't really want it, is that really a friendship? Just don't give yourself false hope. Giving yourself false hope is kind of like an example of like emotional confusion, because giving yourself false hope can bring up a lot of more emotions, like when you remember your friendship and some of the things you may have done, said, like times you've argued, maybe you'll feel like, when you just think about those memories, you'll feel a mix of hurt, nostalgia, and maybe even guilt, because you want that so badly, but you want it to be perfect, and you just want to relive it. It's super bad, and I can totally get that, especially since one of my best friends that I had for 3 years, we had such a good friendship. We were super close. She told me a lot, and she randomly ghosted me. She deleted all of our memories together, both probably personally and also publicly. That really hurt, but I had to push it aside, let her live her life, and just live my own, because I know that if she's gonna ghost me, she obviously doesn't care for me that much. So I blocked her on everything just to avoid being hurt again. Now, please don't take that as me saying that you should block your old friend on everything just because you don't want to be hurt again. I do have my personal story of why, there's more reason behind the block than just that, but that's a very personal story, and I don't feel like talking about it. And there's a lot of personal subjects on that matter, so I won't be talking about it. But do what you want after the friendship, but just avoid toxicity, because that's only going to make it worse and make your life more difficult. Even if you like drama, me personally, I love drama, I'm all for it, but even if you like involving yourself in drama, if that person has done nothing to you, just leave it alone. Just leave it be, please. Missing an old friend is basically, or if not just straight up, grieving a living person. You see posts or you'll see certain words and then automatically think of an inside joke that you both had. I have remembered multiple cases where me and my friend would just make up very random words, or that friend would make very random words with no definition, and we'd, that same friend I was talking about earlier that I just would block on everything, or did block on everything, we had an inside joke. I'm not going to be saying it, not because I want to keep it to myself, but because I don't want to talk about them too much, because it is personal, like I said. But I remember seeing a post and I was still getting over the whole thing, and it reminded me of a joke that me and that friend had. That's one of the worst feelings. And then the other things is remembering, playing a game and remembering all the memories that you have with it. Maybe that was Roblox, maybe it was Minecraft, Fortnite, Fall Guys, whatever it is. It can also make it really difficult to enjoy those games without thinking about that person, unless you basically heal really quickly, or over the years basically completely forget about them. But if it's a fresh wound, then you think about them the whole time, and it kind of just ruins the whole entire experience for you. Then you have to go on to kind of relearn how to live life without them, without thinking about them, etc. Of course, you need to talk about your good times and bad times in order for your thoughts to get out, in order for that to happen. However, like I was saying, you have to relearn how to live without that person, or even in a worse scenario, without those people, if it was a friend group and you guys just completely fell off. It's not as major as losing a parent or a family member. However, it's still an awkward phase where you have to relive having to just go on without them, their jokes, their laugh, etc., etc. It's both odd and hurtful. Speaking of how learning how to live your life without thinking about them and stuff, this has to do with moving forward in a way. And I say that because without I don't know how to describe it. Without knowing how to live without them, you don't know how to heal. Because if you're that dependent on that person and you think about them constantly to the point where you have meltdowns every day, even years after this, but meltdown every single day without this person, then you're not healed. And it's okay to not heal immediately, but it comes to a point when it's been a few years, because that can even lead to needing therapy, and we don't want that to happen at all. But just because you guys aren't friends anymore does not mean that you can't take away anything from that friendship. Whether it's good or bad, you can take away a few things, such as boundaries, how they treated you, how mentally you're doing now. Like, for example, I remember with an ex-friend, they were really bad, but also my mental health, I was kind of like very codependent on my friends, and I thought that I'd have to have a friend in school to have a good day. That friend and I had like a lot of arguments, and it made me realize, like, hey, maybe I don't need a friend to have a good day. So even if it's a negative relationship or friendship, it can make you realize that something good came out of it, whether that's you guys breaking up as a friend or romantically, whether that means that you have gotten stronger because of that person, or you learned how to set boundaries in a more strict manner, or just setting them clearly with people. Whatever it is, there's at least one good takeaway from these, and that also includes knowing what a real friend feels like, even if they left you. Which I feel like that last part is very hard for some people, if not a lot of people, if not everyone. If they had a good friend and they just left randomly, it's hard for them to accept that they had a real friend, and that, you know, they realize what a good friend actually feels like because of that person, because they don't want to accept that that person who left them gave them a good lesson. It's like having a bad teacher or an annoying teacher that made you work harder and smarter, and then you get mad at them because of how annoying, loud, rude, etc. they are. Do you get what my example is? And sometimes it's better for both of you to just let go and block them, whether it means blocking them on just main social medias or blocking them on every single thing from social medias to video games, maybe shared boards on Pinterest, etc., etc. Because you may be wondering why it's good for them, but if they're going through a lot and maybe they're having someone come into their life that they don't want, and that made them drift away from you and their other friends, and from just stripping themselves from conversation, I feel like it could be good for them, because they could finally have some time to kind of like remove themselves from everything else in life and just focus on that one thing. Of course, it's not needed, but there's other reasons why this could be beneficial for the other person in the party or situation, and not just you, but I can't really think of any. The last thing that I want to say is that it's okay to mourn forever, but it gets to a point. Do you know what I mean? If, let's say you were friends with a girl as a teenager, right? 10 years later, you have a husband, some kids, or maybe you don't have them. Maybe you're just a grown adult now. You're no longer a teenager, and you have a lot of good, maybe some bad in life. Everyone has something. If you are still mourning that person, even though they're alive, whether they're alive or not, because, you know, mourning a dead friend and an alive friend is very different, and different conversations. We're talking about alive friends. So if you're still mourning that person, it's fine, but it can't be to the point where you're thinking about them every single day of your life, because you have other things to do. You have new friends to meet. You have acquaintances, co-workers, managers. You have, you know, maybe people inside a club, like a book club, an acting club, etc., that you can meet and build relationships with. Maybe it could be similar to what you used to have, but in all honesty, each friendship should have its own dynamic and not be copy and paste, because if you keep doing that to yourself, it's only going to get worse. How? Well, because if you keep copy and pasting that same relationship and you fall out, it's only going to cut a deeper wound in that same cut. But anyway, that's the last thing I had to say, and I'm going to close my diary for now, and I'll talk to you another day, okay?